Hello everybody, hello, and how are you doing today? It's Matt and I'm so happy to be back for another video. We have a really crappy day going out there weather-wise where I am. It's very cold, it's rainy. I mean, that's better than snow, right? Who wants the snow? But it's just a lousy, rotten day. A good day to sit inside, put on some good music, listen to some Beatles, and maybe make a couple of videos. So that's what my plan is today. So anyway, this first one I want to do is just an idea that popped into my head the other day when I was thinking about all things Beatles, which I do often, think about the Beatles and different ideas for videos and that. And I thought, what is my favorite concert of the Beatles? Now, unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to see the Beatles live, but I said, what concert really floats my boat? Which concert is the one that I would consider my favorite Beatles concert? Now, I know there's going to be debate on this. People are going to pick the rooftop concert from January 30th of '69, their final public appearance. Some people are going to pick Candlestick Park. Some people might pick Shea Stadium. Some people may pick, oh, I don't know, it could be like seeing them at the Cavern or seeing them in Germany at the Star Club, or perhaps one of their earlier shows in '63 or something. But for me, folks, the one that's always been my favorite Beatle concert is their first one on American soil, their first U.S. concert on February 11th, 1964 at the Washington Coliseum in Washington, D.C. That's always been a concert of theirs that I always consider to be at the top of the heap, the top of the list for me, the one that's my favorite. As you know, it happened 2 days after the Sullivan Show. They had that big triumph, 73-something million watched them on Ed Sullivan, and they just, America and the world never looked back after that. And 2 days later, under snowy conditions, they were supposed to fly, but they ended up taking a train ride down to Washington, D.C. And, you know, it's kind of a positive omen. They did take that train ride, and that snowstorm did happen, because you think of all the great footage that the Marsalis brothers, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, all the footage they got of the Beatles on that train going to and from and back from Washington, D.C. are priceless, and which made up the film, The Beatles' First U.S. Visit. Here's my videotape of the first U.S. visit. Any of you that are big Beatle fans, you must have seen this film before. It's a classic. I also have the DVD of it. These are the first editions of The Beatles' First U.S. Visit on DVD and videotape. And here's the most recent one I have. I'll show you that one, okay? If you've seen this, you know what I'm talking about. This film is one of my favorite Beatles films, documentaries, you name it. This has to be one of my favorites of all time. It's just so excellent, outstanding. I mean, this new edition comes with a great new book with it. I'll show you some pictures real quick. And I don't mean to get off track here. Here they are in Washington. Some pictures of the concert. But I just want to make a point of how that snowstorm, when you think about it, thank goodness it happened, because, and that's in Miami later, but here's the back of the booklet, but that snowstorm prevented them from flying, so they ended up taking the train ride to Washington, D.C., and the footage that those Marsalis brothers got is just, like I said, it's second to none. You can't beat it. This is just a wonderful film, folks. I highly recommend you check that out. But anyway, to get back on track here, we know what a great job the brothers did making that film and that documentary. So they head down to Washington on the train. It's a snowstorm, and they get there, and it's just bedlam and thousands of kids and fans waiting for them at the train station. And it's just craziness. And when you see some of the news footage of their arrival in Washington and with the Marsalis brothers film, it's just, wow, it really hits home what a phenomenon they were, how Beatlemania just swept up the nation and swept up the world. It's just no better documentation of it than seeing that footage. And it just drives it home for you what a special band and a special musical act they were for what they were able to accomplish. So anyway, let me get back on track here a little bit. So they get down there and they're getting ready to play the show. It ended up being like a 35-minute set. Over 8,000 people, just over 8,000 people were in attendance in the Washington Coliseum. As you know the history of it. They were playing on a boxing ring without the ropes, and Ringo had a little drum riser that rotated so they could faced different parts of the Coliseum, and as the show went on, they moved it. And you remember that great scene in the footage from it, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, where they're trying to move Ringo's drum riser in the beginning, and they have a tough time moving it, and he needs some help. It's just so antiquated now when you think of stagehands and roadies now and what they do for the bands. And there's poor Ringo up there trying to move his own drums around right in the middle of all this craziness and chaos. It's just unbelievable to see that footage. It just blows your mind what went on there. There was over 300, almost 400 security and police officers on hand that night to provide the security for the show, because let's face it, I mean, the Beatles, they're in the middle of the crowd. I don't think I've ever seen or heard about before or since they played that show where they played in those types of conditions. I may be wrong, but those conditions, being in the middle of the crowd and having to enter the arena, the Coliseum, through the crowd, as you know from the beginning of the footage, and to leave the show through the crowd, did it happen before or since then? I don't think it has. It just, so many unique little facets of this Washington Coliseum show that just draw me to it, that attract me to it, that just blow my mind. And whenever I want to show somebody an example of the live Beatles from those early crazy days, that's my go-to, is the Washington Coliseum concert. Now, they played 12 songs. It was, I guess, about 35 minutes or a little over 35 minutes in length. And they were on fire, folks. I'm sorry. I mean, I know they had other great shows before and after that, perhaps, but they were tight as a band. Don't forget, only a couple of months prior, they were coming off that late tour where they played in Sweden at the Drop-In TV show and did some shows in Sweden, which are audio-wise, they were the tightest I've ever heard them live. I mean, let's face it, at that point in late '63, they were tight as a band. I mean, I don't think they were ever tighter after that. But this show was only a few weeks or a couple of months after that, and I still think they were very tight as a band. They were still, considering the conditions they were playing in, and the bedlam and the mania, and what was going on around them 360 degrees, they were rocking in the show. They were blistering, folks. They were on fire. From the opening notes of Roll Over Beethoven until right at the end of Long Tall Sally and they left the stage 12 songs later, they were on fire. I've never heard them that rocking, that intense. Maybe it was some of the stress of the conditions they were in and playing in, that they were frenetic, but they were just fantastic. I've never heard the Beatles more rocking than in that show. And just for me anyway, it's just my favorite show, my favorite live experience with the Beatles. Now, for years we had very incomplete footage and audio of that show. I had this old video cassette. I showed you a couple of videos back. It's an oldie, this one. It goes back 32 years. 1987 I got this. It's called The Beatles Concert in Washington, D.C. Here's the back. And it shows, it talks about what it's all about and everything. Very brief little synopsis. And in black and white, obviously. And for years, we had incomplete footage, we had incomplete audio, the footage was of poor quality, the video was poor, the audio was kind of poor, and as you know, for many decades, if you're watching the video or listening to the audio, when you got halfway through Twist and Shout, the next to last song, the 11th song, the video and audio cut right off, gone. And we were always told is because, well, the cameras or the videotape at the master station or location ran out of footage, or I mean ran out of tape, or ran out of audio tape, or whatever. And so it never existed. At least that's what I always heard. It never existed. It got cut off halfway through Twist and Shout. No Long Tall Sally, no ending song, and that was it. This is what we had. And so you had it on stuff like this. It cuts off at Twist and Shout. And I even have a real nice package audio, fan club only issue of the Washington Coliseum concert. It's on Spank Records. I got this many, many years ago, but the Beatles, In Case You Don't Know, is what it's called. I want to show this to you. Real nice, a nice picture of Paul and John on the cover. And then you have the back here. And basically what you get on this is Spank Records is proud to present these historic live Beatles appearances, mastered from the best possible source. Well, at the time they did this CD, they didn't have the best possible source. We know that now. But it is a beautiful package. You get a couple of songs from Shindig here. You get 4 or 5 songs from Drop-In Sweden, October '63, which I talked about earlier. And then you get the entire, well, what existed then, the entire Washington Coliseum concert, which was the intro, Roll Over Beethoven, From Me to You. I saw her standing there, This Boy, All My Loving, I Want to Be Your Man, Please Please Me, Till There Was You, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and the last thing on here is Twist and Shout, Incomplete. It cuts off. We know that Twist and Shout was the next to last song, and now Long Tall Sally was the final song, and it does exist. But at this time, this was a nice little package. You got a little booklet inside. Picture of Paul in the back. I'll show you the book real quick. I just love this show. It talks about the Sweden tracks that are on this CD. When they didn't want to just have the Washington Coliseum stuff, it would have been a very short CD, so they added some stuff from Sweden. Then they get into Washington and explaining it a little bit and showing some beautiful pictures of the Coliseum concert. Just what a show. And here's the poster for it. I'm going to show you a replica of this poster in a minute. I have a replica of it. I don't have the original, but I'm going to show you a replica. Talks about Shindig. There's a couple of Shindig songs on here, and just a nice little book, you know, and showing some more pictures of Shindig and stuff. But the main thing on here is the Coliseum concert. It's called In Case You Don't Know. Here's the cover of the CD. Showing here's the back with the song list, and here's the inside. Okay, so that's the CD. But as I said, incomplete video at that time, incomplete audio. We know that. Now in 2009, a semi-miracle happened, okay? At least in my book, because only 10 years ago, who knew I would get to see something new, something I hadn't seen or heard before, the Beatles. Back in 2009, do you remember when the Beatles stereo box set and I think the mono came out around the same time, when Capitol and Apple remastered the entire Beatles catalog and re-released it on CD? You remember that, I'm sure. Okay, well, around that time, if you bought the download, the digital download of the stereo box set in 2009, you were given special access to a download, or I guess you call it a download, of the entire Washington Coliseum concert on video, audio and video. I knew about it then, but I forget for some reason why I didn't want to spend, I think it was over $150 or something like that to get that stereo digital download. I wanted the hard copy, which I have right over here. I wanted the stereo box set. My wife bought it for me and in 2009 when it first came out, and that's what I wanted. I wanted the physical media of it. I said, back then I wasn't into technology. I'm still not into it, but I wasn't certainly not into it back then. So I didn't care about the digital download of the 2009 Complete Masters set, Stereo Masters. But that was the only way you could get this Washington Coliseum concert in its entirety and in pristine condition. You get the full Long Tall Twist and Shout and Long Tall Sally in the best condition up to that point that you could get it in, better than any other source prior to that. The video is fabulous and the audio is fabulous. Now, clear picture, great audio. How did I finally get it? Well, I got this, okay? And I think you can still get this. Go search for it, okay? It's called The Beatles Live at Washington Coliseum. Very well done, fan club only thing. And here's the Apple logo here. It's not completely official, folks, but it's kind of official because somebody, some wonderful person out there who got that digital download of the stereo box set and got their free copy of, or included copy of this with it, the pristine Washington Coliseum concert, that nice, generous person decided to make some CDs or provide that audio and video to somebody to make DVDs so we could all have it. And there you go. And if you look close there, I'll put it close, you can see the full Twist and Shout and Long Tall Sally is there, okay? Plus over 90 minutes of rare and added footage. So you're getting the 35-minute concert and another 90 minutes of cool newsreel footage, them arriving in Washington, stuff from the train ride in and all that. This is beautiful. I can't recommend this enough, folks. And here's the inside. I'll just show you the disc. Nothing, no booklet or anything with it. Folks, I have never seen a better picture, a clearer picture, and better sound than on this DVD right here. I mean, if you know of another source that's better, please let me know. I'll run out and get it right away. But this is my go-to right here. I love this thing. I can't even express to you how great this is. Fabulous, fabulous. And a couple other things to show you, but I just want to say a couple of things about it. The Beatles rocked it at this show. They rocked it, folks. They were just unreal. I know I said it early in the video, but I'm going to say it again. They come in through the crowd, the mania starts, the minute they get on stage, the jelly beans and stuff is flying in, you know, from all directions. And with this DVD now, everything is clear. I mean, when you had this thing, you know, the audio was lousy, stinky, and the video was very rough, very grainy and very blurry, not that good. You couldn't see the detail as good as you can now on this. On this, you can actually see the jelly beans flying in, bouncing off Ringo's cymbals. You see Ringo ducking, stuff bouncing off his head. You see the other Beatles ducking and dodging, trying to get out of the way of the stuff being thrown on stage. There's times where, like, you can see something like fly past one of their, it might be Paul or George, flies past their head and they're like looking like, what the heck was that? And someone else throws something else that like goes between Paul and George and like bounces right in front of Ringo's drum riser and like goes under the cloth under his drum riser, just goes boop and bounces under. And George like looks quick. I think it's George. He looks quick, like, what was that? You know, because they have the spotlights on. They don't see. They just see things coming in from all directions, and you can see it so clearly on this thing, and it's just amazing. And you feel like if you watch it on like a big TV, you know, not just like a little tiny thing. Watch it on like a big TV, and it's just, it'll blow your mind, you know, if you got your DVD player set up with your nice TV and everything. It's just seeing stuff flying in on them. It's just, you see the faces of the fans in the front rows because it's in the round. And on this thing, you can actually see expressions on people's faces. You can see their reactions. You can see what they're doing. You can see, observe, you know, as the Beatles sing or do something, what the people in the front rows are doing. You know, there's a couple of guys sitting there, they're above it all, or sitting there like this, like, you know, bopping a little bit and then clapping lightheartedly later. And then you got the girls going nuts, and then you got some other guys that are really getting into it and bopping their head around and doing some head banging, the early days of head banging. You can see it on here. You'll see a couple of people on here doing some head banging. And it's just great. People in the audience holding audio tape recorders up like this, trying to record every bit of music. Folks, it's just, you can't beat it. It's the greatest experience. If you've never been to a Beatles concert before and you want to feel like, what did it kind of feel like to be there? A tribute band's not going to do it for you. But to get this film of the complete Washington Coliseum concert in pristine condition, audio and visual wise, you can't beat it. This is the closest you're going to get to feeling like you were there, and what was it like? What was happening around as the Beatles were playing? This is it. It's my favorite Beatles concert of all time, and it always will be. And oh my God, I think of the reactions on the fans' faces as things are happening. You gotta watch it several times, because usually we focus on the Beatles and what they're playing, but watch it multiple times like I've done. I know I'm a nut, right? You know, analyzing the film like I'm analyzing the Zapruder film here, you know. But anyway, I've done that. I've watched this thing and had chances to watch it so much that I can focus on different things happening. And I'm telling you, this is a treat, an absolute treat. You've got to check it out. What else is also nice is you can actually, because they were still in that tight mode of being a tight band and they hadn't gotten sick and tired of the touring yet and not being able to hear themselves, that Ringo, instead of just focusing on the backbeat like he did on later tours, because he was like, I can't hear it, I just watch the other guys' butts and I stick on the backbeat and that's all I do. I can't do any fills, I get lost in oblivion. But on this might have been one of the last shows where Ringo actually does some of the fills. Watch it, I'm telling you, he hasn't gotten to the point yet where he's sick of not being able to hear himself. He's actually doing the parts the way they were done on the record. And a real clear one is watch when he's doing Please Please Me, when it gets to the fill part. You know, when he's going across the toms, down, you know, the snare to the toms, down to the floor tom, he does it. He does the fill. And that's a treat to see Ringo actually doing the fills from the songs, and not like he did on the later tours, 64, 65, and certainly 66, where they were just so bored with it and sick of, you know, playing and no one listening, and it just, you know how it got. It got kind of sad for them live, especially on that last tour. But on this show, He's firing on all cylinders, Ringo. He's playing every fill, every beat, every note he's supposed to. He's doing it here, and it's fabulous. One curious thing is I noticed after watching it many times is John never introduces a song. That's weird, because in later tours, John always had his part where he would come up and say his piece, and in this show, he doesn't do that. So they leave their guitars on the stage at the end, they run off, and again, going through the crowd. It's just unbelievable, folks. And I just had to share this video with you today because it's such a treat. I'm a little over 20 minutes, so I want to get out of here. But here's my replica poster. I don't know if you can see the color on it. It's a nice pinkish poster. Maybe you can see it better, the pink back here, but full poster advertising the show. I'll hold that up for a minute. I hope you can see the pink hue on it. I have that. That's beautiful. And this is a picture I'm going to get framed. This is the most recent Washington Coliseum thing I've gotten, and I love it, and I can't wait to frame this and hang it. But look at this great picture of John. Look at the spotlight right above his head. Just above his mic, near his head there. Look at that. I love that. I don't make sure there's not too much glare, but look at that picture of John. Washington Coliseum rocking his butt off. And that's it, folks. Again, and I got my Washington Coliseum t-shirt here. Show you that. Folks, I just had to share my excitement over this show with you. And if you can get this, any of you had it, I'd love to hear your comments, what you think of this new, it's been out 10 years now, but this DVD that came out with the complete concert in the best state I've ever seen it and heard it. It's beautiful. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. I'd like to hear what you think of the Washington Coliseum concert from all those years ago, a little over 55 years ago. Thank you. I'm at 22 minutes. I'm sorry, but I'm passionate about this concert. I love it. I hope you love it too. It's my favorite, and I love all the Beatles shows, but this is my favorite. God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.